What is going on, my people? It's your boy, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker, and we're going live this morning. We're talking all things Brandon Aiyuk. He's ready to take off. He's ready to take that next step. I thought he took that next step last year, but can you add to that, right? Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, is that on the menu for our guy Brandon Aiyuk? All right, what to expect from him? His role in the offense is the first option, second option, third option, fourth option, fifth option. We're gonna talk about all that and more right here. Appreciate everybody tuning in on this beautiful morning. It's early on the West Coast, 6 a.m. Here where I live, Central Arkansas, 8 a.m. Man, we're gonna get it into it before I start my. I already started my day, man. I had a class I trained at 5 a.m. I went and worked out at 6 a.m. All right, it's 8 a.m. We talking to y'all. Then later I got some more sessions and I'll be done around noon for the day. So exciting times for me. I love my summer schedule. I'm really excited about that. But we definitely want to get into Brandon Aiyuk today and take a break from the quarterback talk. The quarterback talk, depending on who it is that you're talking to, it's kind of the low hanging fruit, right? Like that's the easy thing to talk about throughout the offseason. First of all, I mean, it's very relevant. And I know a lot of people get tired of hearing it or having those conversations or those debates. But if you kind of detach your emotions from it, it's not as bad. It's not as bad. It's just, all right, hey, man, 49ers quarterback conversation is going to be something everybody's talking about really until the season starts or until, I'd say, until a quarterback starts for a whole year. I think you're still going to have these conversations. I appreciate everybody that's live right now in the chat. All right, we got my guy right here, Mr. Olight. He said it's Monday. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. We got Marty right here. He got two flames. Come on, two flames. Two flames. Come on, man. We need five. Here we go. Here we go. Niner Gaming. He got it. Five flames. So again, as always, depending on how you're feeling, if you're not feeling great, man, reach out to me. You need somebody to talk to, all that good stuff. I'm here. I'm here for you. All right. But we're here extra early this morning, and I want to start with Brandon Knight. I think I've been very, I want to say, critical of Brandon Aiyuk, but I think the way that Aiyuk has been viewed isn't quite what the way that I think the other people view. I don't view him that same way. I guess that's the best way to say it. I think Aiyuk is terrific. There were things that I've been wanting to see him improve on, and then I saw him improve on those things. I still don't think it's to the extent of how people talk about him, and it's almost like how I feel about the quarterback position, right? I remember Brandon Aiyuk. Look, we're talking about Brandon Aiyuk, and I know we're going to stay away from the quarterback position, but I just kind of want to use this as an example. Jimmy Garoppolo for the San Francisco 49ers, he came in and he won a lot of games. And there were a lot of people that because he won the games, basically it's like, oh man, he's this great quarterback. And it's like, well, if you watch, it's like, man, he does some things very well. But 49ers have a really good team, really good guy that calls the plays. And I think that has a lot to do with the wins. And then, Jimmy just has to be good enough to not lose games. And more times than not, he wasn't. Now, I know you can look at stats and you can see him number one in a lot of different categories, really throughout the years. But overall, you just watch him like the eye test, and it was like, man, there's some things good. You win a lot of games with him. And I appreciated that. But he only had to be better than CJ, better than Nick Mullins, right? And then I think now, as we look at Brock Purdy, I don't think anybody would confuse Brock Purdy for being like this elite quarterback, even though you see him top of the numbers and a lot of different things. But it's like, hey, you just got to kind of be a little bit better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think he's that. When it comes to the 49ers receivers, and you look at kind of what the receivers have been over the years, and when it comes to Brandon Aiyuk, I think for the 49ers, Aiyuk is legit their best pure receiver. And I hated that. Debo Samuel had a season where he had 1,400 receiving yards, another few hundred rushing yards, 16 total touchdowns, like crazy, right? Or 14 total touchdowns, whatever it was. But Debo had a crazy year. In that whole offseason, all I heard was people say, oh, he's not this pure receiver. And it's like, what do you want? What do you want from him? What do you want from him? It's a guy that he's going crazy, just get the ball in his hands. He had 1,400 yards. And there was somebody on Twitter that was like, oh, Debo's overrated. He's only had one season over 1,000 total yards. It's like, look, it wasn't just 1,000 total yards, right? It was like 1,800 total yards. It's a lot closer to 2,000 yards than 1,000. So don't try to diminish or downplay his yardage. But I do believe, and we'll see if this changes, and I think a lot of it has to do with how Debo Samuel prepares. I think that Debo Samuel has prepared to just be a wide back, right? And essentially, it's a guy who just, hey, just get the ball in my hands in some space and then let me do the rest. But I'm not going to do a lot of the things that some of these other receivers are asked to do. Now, as it pertains to the 49ers and their offense, I think when you look at how Brandon Aiyuk fits into it and the role that he can play in his offense, you see a guy that can do like everything. And it makes more sense for the pure receiver talk. And I hated it when it came to Debo Samuel. But now it's like, Debo, you kind of more towards just more of a wide back than a pure receiver. Now, I guess we should identify like what is a pure receiver. Uh, a guy that I'd say wins consistently at every level of the field, right? And Debo, I'm not quite sure he's quite that outside of maybe being able to get kind of schemed open on deep crossers and overs and things like that. But playing and play out, can I count on Debo Samuel? Hey man, you got to run this 10-yard stop. And I could just count on you to really move the defensive back out the line of scrimmage, threaten the defensive back vertically down the field, sit your route down, create separation at the top there, catch the ball. Then it's like, when's the last time we seen Debo Samuel run a comeback? Like just a regular comeback. So when we start talking about pure receiver stuff, we know Brandon now you could do those things. And I think Debo has gotten away from that more and more. So again, I understand the pure receiver talk saying that Aiyuk is the best pure receiver or wide receiver one for the 49ers. I still think Debo is going to be the target hog. All right. So if you're talking about fantasy football, and God bless you. Got my daughter right here watching this live right now. All right. But if you're talking about fantasy football, I still might lean towards Debo Samuel. But if you're just talking about, man, it's 3rd and 8, and I just need somebody to just catch this 10-yard stop route, I'm gonna lean towards Brandon Aiyuk. And Debo once was that, like, first of all, and I know we're supposed to be talking about Brandon Aiyuk. Debo coming out of South Carolina, I had him as really, I struggled with him being wide receiver one. I loved his game that much. I didn't view Debo as a wide back. I didn't view him as like a gadget receiver, even though he did some of the things. I was like, this guy is like the best receiver in this class. And the only reason why I had DK Metcalf over him was because DK was just too freakish, right? 6'4", 230 pounds, ran a 4.3, played as fast as his 40-yard dash time, powerful. I see how he wins at the catch point. Like DK just did all these things. I'm like, okay. It's just, you don't see guys come out like that a lot. But Debo was right there with him, and A.J. Brown was right there with him. And it feels like how I viewed Debo coming out of college, being a guy who was really light on his feet, change of direction really good, could win at all levels of the field. I feel like each year now he kind of gets a little bit further and further away from that. I remember putting out a highlight of Debo on Twitter. I had cut up some clips from when the 49ers played the Seahawks, and it was like Debo's 2 games against the Seahawks. It's just like watch that. This from his rookie year, just his 2 games against the Seahawks and how he was winning, and it's like, gosh, this guy's good. Like just winning at all levels. I just talked about like when's the last time I just really watched him run a 10, 12, 15-yard comeback and like just catch the ball and get up. It might be from his rookie year. That might be the last time I just really saw him do that. Where in some of the other offenses, just you see it every game, right? Like you just see it every game. So Debo, I think it's because of his usage. And again, I always harp on one thing that he said to the media, and I'll never forget this. When they asked him about watching other receivers, Debo Samuel said, I don't watch other receivers. I don't take nothing away from their game because they're not like me. They don't do the things I do, and they can't do this, they can't do that. And it's like, you know what, Debo, you're right. These guys ain't like you. But why not do the things that you do and that those guys can't do? And then also add the things that they do. Like, how great of a receiver would you be? And that's one thing I feel like kind of holds him back a little bit from being that, elite echelon year in, year out type receiver. All right. Now, say all that about Debo Samuel, but I do feel like, and first of all, he's terrific. Debo will if he's a 1,300 yard receiver, I wouldn't be surprised. Dude's amazing, best receiver in the league after the catch. Probably be between him and Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle's up there. Crazy, those two guys are on the same team, but it's like ah, it, but you see where he wins, and I feel like he's kind of putting himself in this bubble a little bit. I could be wrong, Debo. I could be wrong, but it feels like he's putting himself in this bubble to where it's like I win around the line of scrimmage. I'm not gonna win too much more outside of that. Even though you might see it in the game pop up, right? You might see him run a deep post and he just catch it. You might see him run a go route and he catch the ball. But I don't think that that is necessarily what his the way that he's going to win consistently, as opposed to other guys that just consistently win at all levels of the field every single game, every play you can count on. Like, hey, I can have this guy win at those levels. I think Ayuk has that. Now, one thing that I wanted to see heading into last year with Brandon Aiyuk was I just wanted to see Brandon Aiyuk win more versus man coverage. He is known to be a terrific route runner. I watched him coming out of Arizona State. I watched how they utilized him, and I think there's some notes there that the 49ers could take. Not saying I know more than Kyle Shanahan, but in the sense of getting him the ball more. Maybe they don't care because of all the weapons. We'll get to that. But Arizona State, they will move Brandon Aiyuk around. All right, you're going to be on the left side. We'll motion you down to the tight split. Run a route right here versus a guy from off coverage. All right, whoop him, turn him around, catch the ball, get upfield, right? Outside, slant, move a defensive back, have him spinning. He still does those things. Winning on dig routes. The one thing I feel like we haven't seen yet is winning on go routes. Now, as he got to the NFL, the one thing I didn't see enough early on was just the pure route separation. I said, man, I think he can win a little bit more versus man. And some people they kind of got upset with me. But I was like, nah, like just like watch him. And it's like I think there could be more separation. I know he has the ability. I know he could do it. I want him to be more consistent. Now I can throw on some highlights from his rookie year and maybe even year two, and you could see some of those things pop up, right? One play that comes to mind right away, the touchdown against Seattle Seahawks against the cornerback Williams, goal line, probably around the 5 yard line, just destroyed him on the little fade. Just I mean, the corner went that way. He went this way. Easy touchdown. He just handed the ball to the referee, right? Like you saw him have the ability to do those things. I just thought it was a little inconsistent. And the consistent guys that do that, right? The Justin Jeffersons. And I'll talk about how their games kind of differentiate a little bit and some of the things where I want to see IU get better and then how he could be potentially a 13, 14, 1,500 yard receiver. All right. And maybe he will never be that guy in the 49ers offense, but just the ability of it. You see those guys win, I think, a little bit more vertically, no matter the situation. All right. And I think for Brandon Aiyuk, taking that next step is making those plays, right? Like the plays where you can kind of make an excuse for him not catching the ball. All right. And what I mean by that, all right, is let's say against the Carolina Panthers, Jimmy Garoppolo like threw a ball on the sideline, and I understand the trying to keep your feet in bounds, and you're kind of like trying to focus on the ball, and you kind of get a little distracted. There's a DB there, and then boom, you just drop it. I'm like, you gotta make those. But I understand maybe not bring it in, but you would like to see him catch that. All right. The other one where probably would have been the player of the year for the 49ers, where you see Brock Purdy, drop back, go left, go right, circle around, stop, pump fake, throw a ball on the dart. And that was against the Seahawks in the postseason. And then Brandon Aiyuk, he's focusing again. I understand it. It's a drop. It's a drop, BA. All right, but he's trying to keep his feet in bounds, focus on the ball. Got a defender there that swipes, missed the ball, lack of concentration. He drops the ball, right? I think just as a contested catch guy, he leaves a lot to be desired. So I think for him to take off, those are the things I feel like he has to really improve on. When we look at some of these guys that have already taken off, right? The Justin Jeffersons, who is in the same draft as Brandon Aiyuk. Obviously we see what he's done, and I don't want to compare them in the sense of their numbers. Again, different offenses, kind of, right? But the targets or whatever. But I just feel like the tough plays, the easy plays, he makes those. When he just has the separation, he makes those. I was watching this game. It was the Minnesota Vikings against the Buffalo Bills. I'm watching it live on TV. It's coming down to it. It's 4th and 18. I'm like, it's over. Buffalo won this game. And Kirk Cousins drops back and throws the ball downfield to Justin Jefferson. And it was one of those plays where he just said, I know Jefferson's down there somewhere. And Justin Jefferson reached back, made this amazing catch again, 4th and 18, and just threw it up. And he just made the play. And I'm not saying that Ayuk has to make those, those plays, but how much confidence do y'all have in him right now that no matter what, Ayuk is just going to make the play? Now, you might say you have a lot of confidence because we feel like he has that ability. But for him to take off, as he says, those are the things that have to just become, I don't want to say more routine in the sense of a 4th and 18 play, but just the tough plays, the tough catches. Now, am I asking Brandon Aiyuk to be somebody that he's not? In college, he was not a great contested catch guy, right? The analytics, and I don't have the numbers in front of me right now to bring those up and what went into that, but he just wasn't a great contested catch guy. That wasn't his thing. And I think adding that to his game, on top of what he's done, and just with the natural progression of creating more separation. Last year it was there, right? Like he's just winning. I think once he adds that tough catch ability, right? They got that. I think they have that rating on Madden, where it's like tough catches or spectacular catch. That's what it is on Madden. On Madden, they got the spectacular catch. Once his spectacular catch goes up, I mean, we're talking about a couple hundred yards that he's leaving out there just from like not making those plays. Then the 49ers throw a post to him against the Atlanta Falcons, and it was like it was contested. I think maybe Jimmy either, if I remember correctly, again, this stuff top of the dome, Jimmy either underthrew it or threw it a little bit too far, kind of the wrong way. And then I think it made it to where the defensive back can make a play on the ball. And it's like, yeah, like that's tough. But if we want him to be who we think he could be at, make that play anyways. And that's tough. But we see guys do it. So it's not like you can't, right? We see guys do that on the 49ers where it's just like, damn, how did he make that play? Damn, that was just a terrific catch. Man, Diamador Lenoir's in perfect position. They still went up top on him, right? And it's been a long time since we've seen guys do that for the 49ers. Heck, I remember Trey Lance rookie year playing against the Tennessee Titans. And Trey Lance throws a fade, just a straight go route, which was wild because I don't know. I don't even know if I've seen. I mean, how many straight go routes have we seen from the 49ers? You don't really see it, but Trey Lance started left, looked right, boom, let it rip, and he threw this ball like in the DB did have his arm, and it was in one hand, and I don't want to say he dropped it because the DB pulled one arm away. It hit him in the hand, just square right here. It's a terrific throw by Trey Lance, and he just dropped it, right? Or did not come down with it. But those are the plays where, for the guys, just figure out how to make that play. Figure it out. So I'm all for Brandon Aiyuk taking off this year. I think he has the ability. I think he's kind of been building up for this moment. But he has to take a step in the right direction with the contested catches. And if he does that, we're talking about a big-time receiver. Now, the other part to this, and I have the numbers pulled up right here from Brandon Aiyuk's last season. The thing that we're looking for now from Brandon Aiyuk is, will he be the 49ers' number one target guy? We can all say he's wide receiver one. We could say that, even though I think Debo still, there's a chance he just gets more targets in general, right? But will, and Debo per game have more targets than Aiyuk last year, but Debo missed 4 games. All right. Well, I'm looking at some of the numbers here, and we know that the 49ers have a plethora of weapons. All right. You got George Kittle, you got Debo Samuel, you got Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, I like what Juwan Jennings brings, and Ray McLeod, Danny Gray. Danny Gray had 1 catch on 7 targets. Golly, Danny, 1 catch on 7 targets for 10 yards as a rookie. I don't know, Mama, I'm live on my show. I can't help you. You got to figure it out. My daughter wants me to help her with an iPad. All right. But I'm looking at all the weapons that the 49ers have. And I'm just like, man, how do you get Brandon Aiyuk to be that number one target? Because the biggest thing that I see right here that's different or that goes in his favor out of the guys, especially the big dogs, George Kittle, Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey is going to get his targets and stuff, but Juwan Jennings, Brandon Aiyuk is the only one that played every game. And I think that's the one thing that is going to be very consistent, where he's on the field. All right. Now we've seen that throughout his career. He was a 1,000-yard receiver last year, 8 touchdowns. I think there's even more. All right. Now let's take a look back at some of his stats, throughout his career. The last 2 years, he has played every single game, including the playoffs. I think that really helps him. Uh, the targets the year before, 2021, and I want to say that Debo played every game that year too. You see that the numbers down. Maybe Debo missed one game, but the targets are down. 84 targets. So last year, 114 targets. Will Brandon Aiyuk get 114 targets again? Will he get more than that? Can the 49ers uh, can they feature multiple guys? So what I did was, and Brian Peacock and I, Locked On 49ers, we'll be talking about this as well. We're actually going to go back and watch some Atlanta Falcons film. The reason why, and shout out to my girl Ashley. All right, so Ashley, we got this question yesterday from her. And she said, "Hey, Croc, random question, but this came up for me in a conversation, and I'm wondering, do you personally think Kyle changed his offense significantly since Atlanta? If yes, do you think that it was because he found there to be issues with it? Like, basically, hey, we had this offense, we featured Julio Jones a whole lot, and then, all right, then, that's not what's sustainable. What's sustainable is me changing it and being more of a 49ers offense, all right? Or, uh, so she said, do you find it to be the more issues because he didn't, or, okay, hold on. If yes, do you think that was because he found there to be issues with it or because he didn't think a QB he has had so far could execute the offense the way that Matt Ryan did? I think both of those are great questions, and we'll get into that aspect of it. Peacock and I, again, we're going to go back and actually watch some 2020, a game from 2026 and again from 2026, 2015, 2016, and really kind of come to more of a conclusion on like what the difference is, how he calls plays. Is he calling plays the same? Is he featuring guys the same? We do know one thing. In 2000, oh my goodness. So in 2016, that was a Super Bowl year. All right. Julio Jones had 1,400 yards. All right. 1,400 yards in 2016. And he did that while missing multiple games. So he averaged 17 yards a catch. I mean, he just had him. He averaged 100 yards a game. So on the dot, 100 yards a game on the dot. He just had a terrific year. All right. But you look at some of the other numbers and it's like, well, did they have anybody else that they featured? So you see Julio with his 129 targets. And then it goes down to Mohamed Sanu, who, he missed the game, but 81 targets, 653 yards. Taylor Gabriel, 49 targets, 579 yards. So I just think that the volume of reception, and then Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, they had catches as well. They had 85 catches combined. All right. But you see kind of maybe not as much the ball being spread around with like the 49ers. All right. I'm gonna go another year here. We're gonna go 2015 regular season. And I know this was the season that Julio just really went crazy. So in this game, Julio, oh my gosh, in this season, Julio Jones had 204 targets, 1,800 yards. All right. Now, you did see some targets to other guys. Devontae Freeman still had 97 targets, which if you plug that into this past season, that would be second most on the 49ers. All right. Jacob Tamme, the tight end, he had 82 targets. Roddy White has 70. So they were still kind of like spreading the ball around, but definitely, I mean, 200 targets. The whole offense went through Julio Jones. So it was like whatever Julio got going on, like it doesn't matter. We're going to find him. and obviously, like, Matt Ryan, the beneficiary of that, had a ton of passing yards. But I look at that just to try to figure out: is there a scenario where Brandon Ayuk gets a little bit more than 114 targets? I think the hard thing is, again, looking at the weapons that the 49ers have, I just think that might be a little difficult. Might be a little difficult. So again, Debo, while missing 13, but while missing 4 games, played in 13, still 94 targets. That's a decent amount. Definitely more of a value, more volume than Brandon Aiyuk. So y'all let me know what y'all think, man. Again, we're trying to figure out, is this the year that Brandon Aiyuk truly takes off? I think last year was a good season for him, really good. Had over 1,000 yards. Again, he'll tell you, most will tell you, he's the fourth option in the offense. But is this a year that he takes off? And if he does, what does Brandon Aiyuk taking off look like? All right. I put the link in the chat. Feel free to join in on this conversation. Appreciate everybody right now. Hit the like button and subscribe button.
Subscribe to this
You
video.
can also find the live audio on this. I probably should put that link in here, but if you search, Eric Crocker Show, it should pop up. All right, got 70 people in here. Appreciate all y'all. So here's a good one. SoCal Niner fan. All right. SoCal Niner fan, man. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at in SoCal? All right. But he says, depending on who the quarterback is. And that's a great question. I don't know if that. I think we can say, I think the offense is the offense. I don't know if Kyle. Okay, I'll give you guys my thoughts. Here are my thoughts. And then I'll find out later when I go back and watch the Falcons what it looks like. I think that Kyle, his biggest issue as it pertains to the way that he calls plays or maybe features certain guys, it's been really hard for him to get into a groove because I don't think he's had the same quarterback starting for 2 years in a row. Right? Like just back to back seasons, I have the same quarterback starting every single game. He hasn't had that. So, how do you continue to build on an offense? How do you continue to add to it when each year it's a different quarterback playing? I mean, even with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Let me shoot. We can start from the first season, 2017. Brian Hoyer starts the season, Garoppolo finishes. 2018, Garoppolo starts the season, and then Mullins and Beathard finish the season. 2019, one guy played the whole time, and that was Jimmy G. All right. And that was a terrific season for the 49ers and their offense. 2020, Jimmy gets hurt. Mullins has to play a whole lot. 2021, they go into that year. Remember, they drafted Trey Lance, but finally Jimmy played most of the season, right? Outside of 2 games. Okay. 2022, you play hell of quarterback. So, I mean, I think it's a bigger issue, really just not having a, a, a quarterback that I can count on just being there and being the guy for back-to-back seasons and really just being able to continue to add to the offense. All right. Hey, this year we're going to do these things. This guy gets comfortable doing these things. And then next year, man, we're going to add to that. We're going to feature guys and we're going to do all these cool things. And let's keep that rolling. All right. Then the next year we're going to add even more. And this guy, he really gets it. And he understands the offense through and through. And he speaks my language. And then he just hasn't had that. He just hasn't had that. So it might depend on who the quarterback is, but I think the bigger issue is just every year a different quarterback start and playing a bunch of games. And I think that's really hard for a coach really trying to build like that continuity within the team and that relationship within this quarterback. I give him a hard time in the sense of I think a lot of people with the development of a young quarterback, but it's really hard to develop a quarterback when you just always have different guys in there. That's really hard. Jimmy Garoppolo and bombs don't mix. Jimmy Garoppolo is the Raiders' problem. Also, any wide receiver with speed is still underutilized until we have a QB that can hit the deep route. Purdy, no, Lance can, but needs to stay healthy. Yeah, and that's a good comment right there from this guy. Yeah, I would say the one thing with Purdy is he has shown the ability of like I will throw the ball down the field. I think with Jimmy Garoppolo and really just any quarterback, you have to be really confident that the guys that you're throwing downfield with will just catch the ball. So whether they're open or not, I'm just going to throw it out there and he'll make a play. And I don't think that the 49ers have consistently had receivers prove that they can be that guy. Now, I remember Debo Samuel against the Baltimore Ravens. Jimmy Garoppolo threw it up. Debo, the guy, got the ball, touchdown, right? I think it was Marcus Peters. He just get out the way. I'm going to catch this. Boom. All right. Next guy, or next time the with the Lions game down the right sideline, kind of throws Jeffrey Okuda out the way. Debo catches it and runs in for a long touchdown. Uh, that game against the Bears, Debo down the field, post, Jimmy Garoppolo throws it downfield to him, boom, catches it, and he's just a few yards short of a touchdown. All right, so you kind of look at that and it's like, why can't you do a little bit more? Now you can't live on that. And there's a big conversation about the dink and dunk quarterback and dink and dunk quarterback, dink and dunk offense, short passes versus long passes. We're gonna have like a little round table. All right, me and all my guys. We're trying to set that up right now. All right, with Jesse, who else? My guy Greg. All right, with my guy Ryan Hensley. All right, we're gonna all kind of have this conversation about it because I think people are looking at it from different perspectives. But overall, uh, definitely different type of quarterbacks. But I think a lot of it has to do with just how confident you are in the receiver that he's just going to make the play. I remember watching a lot of Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger had no issues. Ow, damn, hit my elbow hella hard. All right. Ben Roethlisberger had, ow, that hurt. Ben Roethlisberger had no issue. Just, I'm just going to throw the ball down the field because you know what? Antonio Brown's down there somewhere. And Antonio Brown, 5'10, all 5'10 of them, he's going to make a play. All right. Matt Ryan with Julio Jones, like, freak is all freak. Now, I mean, those are elite receivers. But, same with Jamar Chase, elite receiver. And Joe Burrow basically said, Jamar Chase is down there somewhere. I'm just going to throw it up to him. And he does the same thing with T. Higgins as well. All right. So I think some of that, when it comes to just the deep throws, it's a quarterback having like the ultimate confidence that his receiver is going to bail him out and make a play down the field. And I think that's a big part of it. All right. And maybe even with Purdy, not having the biggest arm, whatever. But you don't need a big arm to throw the ball down the field. Just have to have a lot of confidence. And Kyle might have to have confidence in dialing up those type of plays with his quarterback and receiver. All right, here we go. We got some guys coming in right now. All right, shout out to my guy, Papa Dragon. Papa Dragon. Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. Good to be here, Ron. Good to be here. My main man, Eric Crocker. But you're touching on some very, very valid points this morning. But if there's one thing I'd like to see you in the roundtable talk about is the biggest asset, the biggest strength, and the biggest weakness of the 49ers. It's one person. And this person believes that it doesn't matter who plays quarterback. As long as I have a top 5 defense, I can score points. This person doesn't believe that he needs to develop a quarterback. He believes that you come in, you do what I tell you, everything will work. There'll be no problems. The same person runs a quarterback between the tackles on 2nd and 8, second week of the season. Same person assigns a backup tight end to block a top pass rusher against a rookie quarterback who is undersized. While 75 to 80% of the stuff that he does is incredible, Kyle Shanahan has to be a better version of himself. Let me give you an example. We were talking about Aiyuk, right?
Right.
Aiyuk has been in the doghouse multiple times. He played every game last year. He shows up in shape. Looks like a monster on the field. Yet Aiyuk was tweeting out, I'm the 4th option. While another receiver, the highest paid receiver on the team, who doesn't even show up to OTAs, shows up to the practice field out of shape and overweight, smelling of barbecue sauce, fresh from Cabo. Has Debo ever been in a doghouse? Therein lies the problem with leadership. You don't make players your friends. That's an ego issue. You want to be a player, and you couldn't have been. So I'm gonna befriend these players. No matter how they perform, no matter how they show up, no matter how professional they are. If you are in the Cabo clique, you will not see a doghouse. If there's one important thing that I've noticed about this entire situation, is that it goes beyond Kyle. Because the Cabo trips are funded by Jed York. Jed York has ruined more 49er football teams than I've ever seen an owner do. He almost turned the 49ers into the Detroit Lions.
Mm.
All the way from moving the stadium out of San Fran way out to Santa Clara. Detroit did that. They moved their franchise 50 minutes away from the city.
Really? I didn't know that. So they're not actually in Detroit.
They were. They're back in Detroit now.
Oh, okay.
They're back now. But before that, they had moved out to a town called Pontiac. And they built this magnificent dome, which which unbelievably sold for under $300,000. The point I'm trying to make is that the Yorks are capitalist enterprise investors. And as long as they make money, that's all they care about. So are we happy just winning, or are we all about the championships? So unfortunately, if you believe that Kyle is loyal to Brock Purdy or Trey Lance, or anyone that's not in that clique, you're wrong. Because the only person he's shown loyalty to, in my opinion, are the people who've been in that clique. People have been in that clique. Kyle has fought for them. He has overridden the management to make sure that they're there. We have overpriced fullback that's a part of that clique that sees about 27% of snaps. In fact, if you break down Juice's carries last year, he earned about $1 million a carry, and he had 7 carries. There is no reason on a running football team, that Trey Lance should be your leading rusher. It's just not supposed to happen. Now, the threat of him running is enough. Teach the kid to throw the quarterback, and the fact that he had to go outside of the organization, because you know how they were talking about him before they saw him throw recently, wasn't very good, wasn't very optimistic. It is he's a good guy. He just needs to play. And now they're raving about how he's playing. Recently, I believe Shanahan said right now Trey's the best quarterback we got. He said that. But he's the best quarterback you got. Why is Darnold splitting team reps with him? And I'm not a Trey Lance pro guy. I'm a pro 49er guy. I'm a pro NFL football team guy. All I'm saying is that the combination of Jed and the combination of Shanahan's leadership style is why you have Brandon Aiyuk, who I believe is the new Jimmy Ward of the locker room, my new favorite player, is tweeting out, I'm the 4th option and I still got 1,000 yards. Because no one's going to fight for Aiyuk but Aiyuk. And the reason why Aiyuk is probably in the doghouse is because he calls Shanahan out on his shit. He's that kind of guy. Am I wrong?
I would say, do you think that he's calling him out with saying I'm the 4th option but still had 1,000 yards?
No, I'm calling him out. What I mean by calling him out is when he goes and he has a conversation with Shanahan, I'm pretty sure it goes something like this. Look, man, I'm the best receiver you got. I work the hardest. I'm always here. I don't miss anything. I would like more opportunity. right? And then what Shanahan's going to come back and say, well, you need to block better. Would you tell Jerry Rice you need to block better, or John Taylor you need to block better? No, I need you to catch the ball.
No,
Get
hold
open.
on, Papa
Catch
Papa
the ball.
Dragon. Are you saying that's what you think he's saying, or
I, I,
because I
I
mean
don't
he
I
blocks his
don't
ass
know
off.
I don't know I don't know for a fact. I do know that Aiyuk will speak his mind. He's not outspoken, but he will speak his mind. That's the difference being outspoken, and there's a difference between speaking your mind. And sometimes when people that are like that, they don't talk a lot, but when they say something that holds a lot of weight, trust me, he has said some things. He said some. I guarantee. I already know that he's had a tiff with Garoppolo, big time tiff that was spilling out over the field. Okay, because Garoppolo just he was in his shell and he just would not take any chances. Garoppolo went from gunslinging in the first 5 games to getting a contract to all of a sudden turning into an injury-prone Alex Smith. Now, part of that, in my opinion, is Shanahan. Because sometimes you need to put your arm around somebody you're coaching and say, hey, you know what? You'll get better. Hey, you know what? I believe in you. I don't see that happening from Shanahan. He's a glass half empty kind of cat. So it's like there's some coaches that will basically they won't tell you what you need to work on. They just won't. Pete Carroll was like that in college. He didn't tell his players prepping for the pros what to work on because he was focused on what they were doing in college.
Right.
Right. Whereas, it should have been evident. Now, I'm no quarterback guru. I'm not. Like I said, I interned for NFL team. I watched a lot of tape. I've sat in rooms with quarterbacks before going over how to use systems. And I'm watching what they watch. And from what I gather overall, when Trey Lance was my pick, I assumed that the fullback would be on the field. I assumed that he'd be under center most of the time and that they would run the ball 20, 30, 35 times a game. Let Trey Lance hand off, let him play action, kind of run him the way that Elway was ran. Because remember, before Shanahan, his dad took over, Elway was like a 58% passer. And then by the time that Shanahan got a hold of him, the play action and stuff like that, had Elway read half the field, scramble 13, 14 yards past the line of scrimmage, and then gun it the opposite side of the field. Before he was doing all that stuff, he was 58%. Once the Shanahans came in, then he was like 64, 65%, making Pro Bowls and everything else. So it's like, if you have a situation where literally you look at how they spend the money, that's the truth. The truth is that's in how they spend the money. They could have got a quarterback this offseason. If they were committed to say, hey, look, we got to go get this ring for Trent. We need to get somebody in here who's been some Pro Bowls. They had that chance. Derek Carr was out there. He doesn't miss games. He makes the Pro Bowl. He doesn't have to carry the team, but he can put up 300, 400 yards if he has to in certain situations. He was out there. But they got Sam Darnold, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got Trey coming off injury. You got Brock coming off injury. Okay. Both players, again, they have a little bit of blame in it themselves. They really do. Part of it is when you're on the field, you control the narrative when you're on the field, right? Which is what made Brock so special last year because he came in and was like, man, I'm just going to throw it here. I'm throwing it there. I'm spinning out the pocket this way. He was breaking rules left and right because he had leverage. There was nobody behind him to threaten him. Okay, so psychologically, how's that going to be different this year? I don't know, but it wasn't like Shanahan protected him, and then he does what Shanahan does. He makes these errors, these Mike McGlinchey-like errors, right? We can agree Mike McGlinchey was good like about 82% of the time, but when he messed up, it was spectacular, right? It would go viral. When McGlinchey messed up, it was horrible. Shanahan's the same way, dude. When things are clicking, it's awesome. Get to the playoffs, you're playing a better team, better defense, a better coaching staff. All of a sudden, you forget in the Super Bowl that, you know what, running the ball with Debo in the first half was working, right? He didn't even run him in the second half. He started trying to pass. He did the same thing in Atlanta because he's on an island by himself with his own ego. Because in his mind, he's saying, I'm going to win this game with my mind. But what you draw up on a whiteboard doesn't translate to what's on the grass sometimes. Sometimes variables don't happen the way you expect them to happen, i.e., Mr. Croft. Listen, I know you didn't play last week. On this play, I need you to block the best pass rusher in the league. That's dumb. But instead of protecting your next quarterback, he doubles down and he does another long pass with somebody who's barely played, and then he gets plastered. That's Shanahan's issues. When he missed the obvious uh, pass play in the first quarter of the game against the Eagles, where the guy dropped it and he didn't throw a challenge flag at the beginning of the game. That's what I mean, because he is on the island by himself thinking about that playbook. He can't focus on the entire game. So Shanahan needs to be a better version of himself. He needs to be a better leader, a better decision maker during game day. He's got,
And real quick, Papa Dragon,
yeah,
when we're talking about Kyle being a better version of himself, that is taking into account that he is a terrific coach, but to get over that hump, right? Because I think everybody in here that's in the chat right now, they want to see the 49ers hoist that Lombardi trophy. And for him to hoist it, there's
right.
these little things that he needs to just get a little bit better at, to where now it's like, all right, you go from a team that's knocking on the door to boom, we kick that door in and win that trophy, because he is right there. Like he's right there. So,
He's
we're
so
not
close.
comparing him to I don't know, a coach that, you know, I'm trying to think of just like a
I've
bad
never seen,
coach.
I've never seen a coach like it. I've never seen a coach like him do what he's doing under the circumstances. I mean, to go through as many quarterbacks as he's gone through over the 7 years, it's just one of those things. But again, it all comes back to that as fans and people like yourself, we sit there, we see what the weaknesses are, and then on the first day of free agency, we sign an $84 million defensive tackle. Yeah, we need that player, right? But what we really needed was to make better decisions in the past, right? Like Javon Kinlaw had red flags all over him. Shouldn't have been drafted at the position he was drafted, much less not given the number 99, right? So it's all about psychological pressure that some of these players have to face. Trey Lance is seeing a shrink right now. He needs to see a shrink because he has to understand who he is. And something came out of that shrink this summer, which is like, dude, if you want to play in the NFL and you want to get better, you better fix it yourself, because Brian Greasy ain't doing it. Shanahan's not doing it. And that's what I mean. It's like, if you're on the cusp, if you are on the cusp of a Super Bowl, you don't bring in a a, 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 a quarterback coach with no experience. You don't do that. That's the position you have to improve the most. When you're
I
on the
will
cusp,
say though, and I hear you, but we have had, between Jimmy Garoppolo, especially how he played prior to the injury, and I'm talking about the injury last season, and then Brock Purdy. Those were guys that came in and played well. And the biggest job for a quarterback coach is really more so getting guys ready mentally. And it's not just a quarterback coach. That's every position. When I was with the New York Jets and I'm out there and I'm playing cornerback, they weren't saying, "Oh, Croc, let me pull you to the side so we could really work on your technique." It was actually other guys on the team. It was Antonio Cromartie, and it was the Kyle Wilson. Really more so Antonio Cromartie more than anyone. But he pulled me to the side and worked with me. It wasn't my DB coach. It wasn't Coach Tim McDonald. It wasn't Coach Smith, right? Now, oh gosh, who was the coach that came in during training camp? Dana McClendon. Well, played cornerback for like Cleveland Browns. He would help me on some things, but for the most part, when it comes to the technical aspect of things, coach not so much, like, but the mental part of it. But Papa Dragon, I'm gonna get to the next caller, man. Really good call. I appreciate you coming on.
all right, man, we'll talk to you.
All right. I think sometimes, especially with the fans, it's like you hear coach and quarterback coach or receiver coach, and we think that a lot of it that goes into it is the like, oh, they're gonna, get this receiver to run his route, like drop his hips. They'll work on some of those things during the indies, and you'll see them go through different things that you feel like, hey, I want to create good habits with these guys, and hopefully they do those things really hard. I remember being there on the sideline training camp. I'm watching Brandon Aiyuk watching Kendrick Bourne, and I was really impressed. I was really impressed with how Kendrick Bourne prepared. God, that's not the fastest uh, at all, right? But he worked really hard on the little things, and if you do that during that time, eventually, like it'll start to pay off. But it is a process. But for the most part, coaches they need to get you up to speed mentally for the games. So um, I think that I've seen some tweets kind of float out there about you know a coach and then kind of tying technique to the coach, and it's like, nah, man, the off season is where a lot of these guys are going to work on those things, and then it's on the player to consistently kind of continue to work with either that guy in the off season and kind of go through some of those things before practice, right? Like, let's say I work with, let's say, I'm gonna say my guy Oliver Davis, terrific defensive back coach out in Atlanta, and I work on things with Oliver, and I work with him, and we're drilling things. Once we get to the actual, like, I don't know, OTAs or whatever, well, I don't have Oliver with me, so I have to continue to work on those things, you know, away from him, so that it becomes more of a muscle memory. And then I see him again in the summer, and I'd assume that that's what Trey Lance does, where, there's things that he worked on with Jeff Christensen. Hey, man, we worked for, 4 days or a week or whatever it was. A lot of those things I have to continue to work on it. And he's probably trying and trying. I saw one ball get away from him, and everybody wants to, oh my goodness, right? Like they're panicking. But it's like, no, man, like he's still working on some things. And eventually it'll be something that he doesn't have to think about. And then hopefully you don't see those things, right? And then he's going back to, I think, Jeff Christensen for the summer. So those are things like when it comes to quarterback coaches, they is really more so the mental part of it, which is the big part of it as well. It is as well. Here we go. Coming on now, I have Tia. Tia, good
Yes.
morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. I have two thoughts on it. I guess the first part would be about the quarterback situation.
Mhm.
I think it was when Trey was talking about the mental aspect of it. We have to realize that the team is a Jimmy Garoppolo locker room. Like Kittle was out here pom poms cheering. Jimmy's my guy. That's my dude. So imagine a 20-year-old kid coming into being drafted that high with a locker room that's already 100% behind their quarterback, wondering why would we take a quarterback when he's supposed to be our guy. So you already
Right.
have that aspect of it, and then you really sometimes I think it's part of the organization's fault because they never really kind of stood behind Trey Lance like they did with Jimmy. I guess it kind of comes off as sometimes like if
But you
Jimmy made
know
a
why,
mistake,
Tia?
why?
Because Jimmy G came in and he won 5 straight games.
Right,
And with the NFL players, those guys, they don't care about development. They don't care about what goes into it, the ups and downs. And obviously a lot of that depends on where the roster is. But all they care about is this guy going to help me win? And while everybody else, and well, I don't want to say everybody else because half the 49 fan base was split on Jimmy Garoppolo, but the people that were watching, and really watching, you could see, uh, it's not quite Jimmy. So, it's like they love this guy and they go to bat for him. And it's like he he's cool, but it's not him that's really like driving this bus, but he does some good things. And then you see like Brock Purdy come in. And I think Brock Purdy did a really, I mean, excellent job. We're talking about a guy rookie year. He started off as third string quarterback. He comes in, he's balling, he's winning a bunch of games, like never lost, as LeVar Ball would say. And what are the players going to do? They're going to get behind that because all they've done with this guy is win. So I think when it comes to like how they came with the pom poms for Jimmy Garoppolo, it was just more so about when this guy plays, we win a lot of games. We appreciate that, and that was all they knew. Now, if you were to put Jimmy Garoppolo on the team, and then you add, let's say, Patrick Mahomes, they would have a different tune because of what Patrick Mahomes has proven to be at the NFL level. Where it's like, well, Jimmy, we love you and we know we can win with you, but you ain't this Mahomes guy, right? Like he's just, better. But Mahomes has been able to prove that over time. So I think that's what it is. just a young quarterback coming in, unproven, a lot to work on. Jimmy G, we win games with him, and I think that's why they cheer for him so hard.
Right, which I understand that, but at the same time, Kittle wasn't Kittle when he first came into the league. It took some years, some growing pains for Kittle to realize what the NFL was and how to do things and get to where he needs to do because his body didn't look like that. He wasn't as aggressive. His he was a good blocker, which everybody know that's what I was known for. But Kittle wasn't Kittle until maybe 3 years into it. Fred wasn't Fred when he first came into the league. So I think my thing is if some of these players who are great now also needed time to learn and develop, but our team wasn't that good back then. So they really was under the radar to where, they had to make mistakes to learn and grow. So that's I understand we're a winning team, but I just think everybody needs to realize not everybody who gets drafted in the NFL automatically comes in and gets it and succeeds when they first get in.
Right.
So
And
that's
I
my
will
thing.
say, because you mentioned Kittle and it took a little minute. I think it took a minute for him to be like this elite receiver. But if we do go back to 2017, and I'm trying to go back in time when George Kittle was drafted, the 49ers had Vance McDonald, I want to say. And I
Hmm.
think they liked George Kittle so much, like with whatever he showed, that they were
Hmm.
willing to trade away Vance McDonald. I think that happened. So, although it took a little while for Kittle to like be the Kittle like how he's viewed now, I think early on he showed enough of the signs to where they're like, oh yeah, we really like this guy.
Right,
So
which I think they think the same thing of Trey. I think they do see signs. I think that they also think that there's things that he needs to work on, which is that with everybody. I don't think you will ever be. I mean, look at Kobe. Kobe always said, okay, yeah, I may be great, but there's other things that I still need to work on to be even better than what I am right now. So I think there's always room for improvement. I just think that even as a fan base, we can't always expect every player to be so great immediately as soon as we draft them. It just takes time. Everybody learns at a different pace. That's how I feel about it. And
right.
then on the Brandon Aiyuk thing, I
Hold
think
on, real quick.
he is.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you are correct on that. It takes different time. I think, and this is when I kind of compared it to James Wiseman, who was drafted by the Warriors. I think the
Hmm.
bigger issue with that is, yes, it some guys take more times than others, right? Like, I mean, we look at what Buffalo did with Josh Allen, and Josh Allen year one definitely did not look like Josh Allen, year three.
Right.
uh, I think the expectations for the Bills were a lot different, and even though they were coming off of a playoff appearance with Tyrod Taylor from 2000, what was it, 17 or whatever, 2018, they just didn't have high expectations. So Josh Allen could play however, and it wasn't necessarily going to shake things up. Then year two, they won some games, they started heading in the right direction. Then year three, we saw what he was. For Trey Lance, the tough thing is the expectations from the moment he showed up was to be great. And even when he was drafted, a lot of people are like, oh man, like, better than Jimmy G. And I'm like, this guy's not gonna come in and just be better than Jimmy Garoppolo. But then that's what the expectations were because the team wants to win the Super Bowl. Then the year after that's like, oh, we got to win the Super Bowl. Like, and then oh, he wins a lot of games. He's doing very well. So I think like James Wiseman when drafted by the Warriors, James Wiseman's development curve did not fit where the Warriors were, and ultimately they traded him away. All right, go to Detroit. I think Trey Lance, what he needs from a development standpoint, does not fit where the 49ers are or have been since drafting them. And so the issue was, and kind of, now this is in hindsight,
Hmm.
they should not have drafted him
Which is
if
how I
if,
feel.
if,
Yeah.
if their expectations were it's like, hey, you got to win a Super Bowl, so we're going to trade this and you're going to win for a guy that needed what Lance needed. Uh, you
Right.
know,
Which is my sentiment. If that's why I felt he should have been traded. If you feel like you don't have the time to develop him or let him develop, and you are on a winning roster, if you're so confident in Purdy and you're so confident in Sam Darnold, let him go to another team and let him do it there. But I think they're worried that they know what they got, but they just don't want to do it right now. That's how
right.
I feel. I feel they know what they have. They know he can be great, but because they're trying to win right now, they don't want to they want to try to have their cake and eat it too. I don't want him to go nowhere and do good, but we also, we don't really want to go through the growing pains right now because we're trying to win right now.
And I think that, and you see the injuries that the 49ers have had. I mean, hell, Brock Purdy's injured right now, right? I mean, and he's
Right,
recovering from it.
but you never know. Like the guy said, you never know what Kyle's gonna do because hell, it don't matter who the quarterback is. Sam Darnold could be back there and get hurt too. You just don't know because you don't know what the situation may be. At this point, it's almost like it's like we got a curse on quarterbacks. If they play 2, 3 games, then they gonna get hurt. We really don't know. I think at this point we just kind of like, okay, we made it 1 game. Okay, let's see if we can make it to another game. That's
There
at
was
this
a
point.
there was a stat. I think it was the 49ers have only had two quarterbacks start an entire season since like 2003 or something like that, which is like
Right,
wow,
right.
wow.
And then on the not Kaepernick on the Brandon Aiyuk situation, I think they just
Hold on,
don't give him a lot.
why you got Cap on your mind?
I'm thinking of Cap during that time when
Okay,
we
okay,
was
yeah.
on the run because he really stayed healthy the most for the most part. As much running he was doing, he was out there. He was healthy for the most part.
He really
But
was.
yeah,
Until he
with all
wasn't
that
really the finger, the
right. But
knee,
that was
all he had
yeah.
to get the surgery and but yeah, go ahead.
But with the Brandon Ayuk thing, I think that he just don't get a lot of opportunities. And I think he said it himself. He said when he came in the league, when he did the interview with Brad, was where he was talking about how he felt like he knew everything and Kyle couldn't tell him what he was doing wrong. And he said he realized that was on him and that he didn't know everything. So that's why he is a little bit more, he was in a doghouse because he wasn't taking the criticism and the advice that Kyle, he said now he appreciated because now he understands the stuff that he wasn't doing that he's doing now. So I don't think he take it as a slight or a negative towards Kyle. He just said that he came in with an attitude and an arrogance like you can't tell me nothing.
Mm,
So now he understands how NFL is supposed to go and everything. But I do think sometimes in games it looks like they force the ball to Debo in situations where it's like, okay, we don't need him to run up the middle. We don't need him to run outside. IU be wide open, and sometimes it looks like we force it to Debo to get 2 yards. So I just think that if Kyle finds it like, okay, some routes IU do be getting open, wide open, and we just don't throw it to him. They'll throw it to Debo. They'll throw it to Kittle or they'll check it down to CMC. So it just sometimes it's on the coach, but it also is on the quarterback. Regardless of whoever the quarterback is, you have to look at the field and see. I know if it may go to Debo, but you see there's 2 people over there. Are you gonna be 1-on-1 for the most part? Him because you got to guard Christian, you got to guard Debo, you got to guard Kittle. He's gonna have a 1-on-1 option. It's up to the quarterback to get it over there to him. So
right,
yeah, it could be on Kyle, as far as the scheme, like Debo is second or whatever. But I think it's on the quarterback because you have to look at the field and see who's getting double teamed. So
right. All right, great stuff, Tia. I appreciate you calling in and touching in on that.
thank you.
All right. Shout out to Tia and shout out to who we have on here. Papa Dragon coming through as well. I appreciate everybody that contributed to such a great show. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. We went early this morning. I think what 6 a.m. Pacific, 8 a.m. Central Time, and that just kind of helped me with the way my day is kind of structured today with workouts and stuff. I think later this week we're gonna have kind of this round table with my guy Ryan G. Hensley, Greg Pinelli. Uh, we're gonna try and see if we can get my guy Jesse on. All right, we're trying to time it all out, get some people on here. We got some things to discuss. Appreciate everybody that came in. Of course, subscribe to this video.
Subscribe to this video.
All right, hit the like button, all that good stuff. Thank you all for contributing to such a great show, and I'll see y'all again soon. Peace. Pickle, you want to say bye to everybody? All right, Pickle said bye. Peace.